Hi guys, it's April. December is obviously here, so Christmas tree is up. And don't be surprised if random things start popping up in the background of my video because I am just now pulling out all the Christmas decorations. I had plans on doing it earlier, but last month, November, the thing I'm trying to wrap up right now, was a lot more hectic than I ever planned on it being, and so that did not happen. I had plans to read a lot more this last half of November than actually got accomplished because I have been struggling through Illusions by Martina Bones for over a month. And it's not because it's a bad book. It's actually a really good book and I love Martina Bones' writing style. The problem is I don't think I want it to end. So I am dragging that sucker out. I'm finding all kinds of excuses not to read that book. And so I only have 5 books for you this time around. Yeah. So let's get into the 5 books that I finished off at the end of this month. I picked up A Study in Scarlet by Brittany Cavallaro. This is a Sherlock Holmes-esque retelling, universe expanding thing, mainly because it is centered around Jamie Watson and Charlotte Holmes, who are the descendants from the original Holmes and Watson. These are teenagers who are going to a boarding school and then murders start happening that parallel a lot of the Holmes murder mysteries. They are on a quest to figure out who is trying to frame them for said murders, and of course their ancestry comes into play. I love the idea of a Sherlock Holmes retelling. However, I didn't 100% get behind this book. I had some issues with the dynamic between Watson and Holmes. Some of it felt a little squishy to me. It creeped me out how Watson kind of viewed his relationship with Holmes at times, especially before he even met her. It got a little weird, and then the whole setup of how the families were trying to mush together, the dynamic was off. It really was, and I understand that kind of makes sense because Holmes was off originally anyways, but it felt wrong the way the relationship formed in this book. I had so many red flags going off. I did enjoy the murder mystery aspect of it and trying to figure out who done it. That was fun, but I struggled a little bit with understanding how Holmes would have offspring with his name because I never really pictured Holmes getting married. And if he did have children out of wedlock, they probably wouldn't have the Holmes name. I don't know. That is neither here nor there. That was something that just popped into my brain as I was reading this book. Sorry, I'm out of breath. Why am I out of breath? I then got into Version Control by Dexter Palmer, which was absolutely amazing. I enjoyed this book so dang much, mainly because a lot of it connected with me just because of aspects of my life somewhat being pieces of what was going on in this book. This book is centered around Rebecca Wright and her life. She ends up forming a relationship with a physicist who is developing a causality violation device, aka time machine, and things go a little weird. You see her past, you see her present, and how their dynamic grows, how they form a relationship, how they get married, how they have a child, and then things just get really weird, and it plays with this concept of time travel and what does that really mean, and what version of the future is really the right version of the future. It messes with your mind in so many different ways, and I loved it. It was amazing, and I now officially want it on my bookshelf because, yeah. It was. I finally finished Winter Spell by Claire Legrand. I was buddy reading this with Shayla and I kind of biffed that whole experience. So for that, Shayla, I am sorry. This is a retelling of The Nutcracker. It was actually rather enjoyable. It takes place in New York City in 1899 with a girl named Claire who is dealing with the loss of her mother, trying to keep the family going, and of course, things go really weird and nutcrackery. She ends up in a different place in which magic is a thing, and she discovers some truths about herself and her heritage. I enjoyed it a lot. There were times where the characters felt really flat to me, but overall I really enjoyed this retelling. I then got through This Savage Song by Victoria Schwab, which is a tale of a city divided in two. You've got humans, you've got monsters. What could possibly go wrong in that equation? You've got Kate, who is the daughter of the controlling force in the human half of the city, and then you've got August, who is an inhabitant of the monstrous side of the city. They end up going to the same school for various different reasons, and then they start interacting. And this story just deals with what good and evil really means, what monsters are, and what defines us as being human. I enjoyed it a lot. There were some interesting takes that she took with this book. I wasn't completely floored by this story like I have been with some of her other works, but I am interested to see where this series goes. And finally, I picked up Mugen Spiral because I needed something short and sweet and interesting to read, just so I felt like I accomplished something, and this was sitting on my shelf because I picked it up at a library book sale, and then I realized that I have actually read this before. I have read it before. I believe it was back when it was still being fan translated, before it got picked up and translated by Tokyo Pop. So that's a thing. This is a story about Yayoi, who is a mystic who deals with demons and spirits and has captured the demon prince and is keeping him in a cat body at present. Demon King is dying, and so all the demons are trying to compete to become the next king, and it just so happens that Yoya has powers that these demons want so they can become the Demon King. It is hysterical because it just is. I have an odd sense of humor. So those were the 5 books that I managed to read for the last part of November. I'm hoping to pick up my reading a little bit in December, especially as things mellow out a little bit and I can stop stressing about everything. I highly doubt I'm going to reach the same number of books read as I did last year, but I don't doubt that I may outread the page count. So that might be a thing. Also, I want to remind you, if you have not yet voted in the YA Booktube Awards, you need to do that because December 31st is the last day in which you can put in your nominations, and if you don't do that before December 31st, you will be sad. Very, very sad. And also, you have so many giveaways that you can enter for this wonderful Booktube Award thing. I'm just losing it. There are things. Enter it, do that. I will have the information down below, and I heart your beautiful faces. Bye.